We're hitting it. We're continuing with Unit 0. Today, we're going to analyze and evaluate diverse research methods in psychology, discerning between quantitative and qualitative data collection techniques. Okay, so there's more vocab. We're going to learn more about research methods, and then we're going to be able to begin to apply what we learned to real life. We're going to make our own research questions. Exploring descriptive research methods. Okay, so we need to differentiate between research design and methodology. Research design means the broader framework, the overall plan for how you will answer a research question. It includes deciding what you want to study, what you want to find out, and how you will gather and analyze your information. We need to learn 5 research methods throughout this course. Okay, we need to learn experiment, case study, naturalistic observation, correlational study, and meta-analysis. I think we'll be able to do all 5 of them, but this is kind of your research design. Like, what type of research are you doing? That's a research design. Research methodology are the specific techniques in which you'll collect data. Okay, so you want to do a naturalistic observation. What's the technique you'll use to collect that data? I guess the technique is observation or being sneaky. If you want to do an experiment, what technique will you do? You're going to do surveys in your experiment. You're going to do interviews. You're going to do observations in your experiment. So these are the methodology is like surveys, interviews. This is like the type of thing that you're going to use to gather data. So the difference between quantitative and qualitative data is very important for us to understand. Quantitative data has to do with numbers. It's numbers-based information gathered from surveys, tests, or experiments. So anytime you're measuring anything or collecting numbers, that's quantitative data. It's related to numbers. So for example, if you wanted to do a observation on behavior in the cafeteria, you want to see who eats what in the cafeteria or who wastes food. Quantitative data would be like how many people are on their phone while they eat lunch. Right? That's quantitative. What percentage of teachers eat Korean food at lunch? Very good question. Quantitative data. Qualitative data is not about numbers. It's just words. You're describing some behavior that's not related to numbers at all. Information collected through methods like interviews or observations focusing on people's experiences and behaviors. So you're not just adding a number to somebody, you're kind of trying to understand what their perspective is, right? So when we do naturalistic observations, when we observe people's behavior, qualitative data would be just like describing what you saw, describing what someone said, right? There's no number involved. It's not quantitative data. It's just qualitative data. You're kind of understanding something more deeply. When you make surveys, which we will, the best type of survey for quantitative data or for measuring correlations, the most commonly used type of survey is a Likert scale survey. It's a really useful skill to be able to create good surveys. We're going to do this in class this week. Likert scale. Likert scales are the most popular because it gives you just such a good range of options, right? The best way to do a survey on Likert scale is like indicate your level of agreement with the following statements. I enjoy spending time with friends. I feel confident in my ability to succeed in challenging tasks, right? You could do a survey with just these 2 questions on it, right? And then you can take your data, you can throw it into AI or you can throw it into a data analysis tool real easily, and you'll be able to see a relationship. Maybe your hypothesis is people who enjoy spending time with friends feel more confident in their ability to succeed in challenging tasks, or maybe they feel less confident. Either way, whatever your hypothesis is, you can survey 20 people, and then you can see if there's a relationship between these 2 variables, spending time with friends and feeling confident. So I want everyone to come up with 2 variables. You can come up with 3 or 4 if you want, but you're going to come up with like 2 or 3 statements like this, and we're going to see if there's a relationship between them. Right? You can do that with Likert scales really easily. So this is a Likert scale. Okay, there's also interviews that you could do. I don't think we're going to do interviews. They're too time consuming, maybe later, but not during this unit. You already know what an interview is. A structured interview is where your questions are predetermined, right? You already know what questions you're going to ask, and you just go to the interview and ask the questions. There's no unscripted question. It's completely structured. Right, there's also a survey technique. This is something you're all familiar with surveys. You fill out surveys all the time. For surveys, you could do something like a Likert scale. That's good for quantitative data, right? Strongly agree, that kind of thing. It's good for quantitative data. But then open-ended questions are good for qualitative data. So I'll share, when I asked you to fill out a reflection on our participation rubric, I got quantitative data and I got qualitative data. Okay, there's something everyone needs to understand about surveys and also interviews and any questions in general. Wording effect. The way that you phrase a question can change the answer, right? Can influence the participant's response. Do you feel stressed about your upcoming exams? Version 2, are you worried about failing your upcoming exams? In this scenario, the subtle difference in wording may evoke different responses from students. This is a really difficult version because they're pretty similar. But if I ask you, how mean is Mr. Vance? Or how strict is Mr. Vance's participation policy? By phrasing the question as how strict, I'm already telling the respondent that the policy is strict, right? So this is a bad question. And these are unfair questions, but you'll find that most surveys have wording effect in them, right? They try to get the respondent to respond a certain way, and it's unfair. So we need to be careful of wording effect. We'll look at some more examples of this in class. Social desirability bias is also a problem in psychological research, right? A lot of people, when they fill out surveys in a way that they think the survey giver wants, right? They want to answer questions that conform to social norms rather than providing honest or accurate answers, right? Especially in interviews, right? If you interview people, they'll probably just tell you what you want to hear, right? And it's mostly the same with surveys. It's called the social desirability bias. People don't want to make you disappointed. People don't want to ruffle any feathers. Usually, a lot of the time, people respond in a way that's viewed favorably by the asker of the question. That's called social desirability bias. One research method that we must master is naturalistic observation. All right, so a naturalistic observation is when you observe humans in their natural habitat. It's like a nature documentary, but you're just watching humans act naturally. So I want you to do a naturalistic observation here at SJA, right? That is when you observe and record behavior in real-world settings without intervention or manipulation. So you're not changing anything about the environment. You're just watching people behave naturally. That's called a naturalistic observation. You're not telling them that you're watching them because that will change their behavior. You're not telling them. You're covert. You're a secret spy, and you're recording natural human behavior. So that's a naturalistic observation. Think about a topic that you'd like to study at SJA. We're all going to do a naturalistic observation. All right, here are some ways that your naturalistic observation could be good. You could tally things. You could have an observer narrative. You could take notes, capturing detailed descriptions of behaviors and interactions. You can look at those notes to identify patterns or trends. You can also get audio or video footage of your observation. I think I'm actually going to ask you to take a picture of yourself doing the research. I don't want any audio or video because we don't want to expose anyone's identity. Talk about that when we learn ethics. I'm not going to do that. I will do a case study thing in class. Case study is different from naturalistic observation. It's a research method that involves an in-depth examination of one case. So usually in psychology, when something really weird happens to a person, we got a really weird case on our hands, we study that person in depth to learn more about the brain or human behavior. We'll do a case study activity in class to understand this better. For now, let's just think of naturalistic observations. We'll learn case study in a classroom activity. So I think that's it. We're going to move on. Thanks for listening, and hasta luego.